In this week's episode of the Ask the Big podcast, we're going to be talking about what to do if a buyer doesn't deliver the due diligence fee after going under contract. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Ask the BIC podcast, where you'll hear answers to the most frequently asked questions from North Carolina real estate brokers. Submit your questions via email to askthebic@gmail.com. That's askthebic@gmail.com.
Well, what's up, everybody? My name is Russ Lockamy. I am with the Ask the Big podcast, and I've been a BIC in the Raleigh, North Carolina area for going on 13 years now. And every week we bring an answer to one of your questions. And this week's question is from an anonymous listener. And it is, as a listing agent, what do I do if the buyer doesn't deliver the due diligence fee? So you're the listing agent working with a buyer, working for your seller, and they go under contract. I'm assuming buyer and seller agree on a price, sign, got a contract, everything's done, and they don't deliver the due diligence fee. What do you do? If you're using the offer to purchase 2T form, the due diligence is due and deliverable on the effective date. So that's the date that the last party signs and the date that that signature is sent to the counterparty, or at least notice of the signature and agreements being delivered. So number one, they've signed, and number two, that signature has been communicated. So if you have that due diligence fee is due, okay, it's due on that same day, the effective date of the contract. If they don't deliver it, do want to make this clear. If we have an effective date, we do have a contract. So it doesn't mean that the due diligence date is got to be delivered for us to be under contract. No, we are under contract. So all of the seller's requirements and duties in the contract are still valid. So technically, the buyer could do inspections. The buyer can request. I mean, it should be taken off of the MLS as active and put as under contract. You're under contract even if that due diligence fee has not been delivered yet, because that is a point of confusion for some agents. Sometimes the due diligence is due though. So what you need to do is you need to send a written request to the buyer or the buyer's agent, requesting that due diligence fee or earnest money deposit be delivered immediately. And you can use that using the form 355-T that we have as if you're a realtor, that we have in our arsenal, and that will give you a checkbox to check for the buyer to timely deliver either the earnest money deposit or the due diligence fee, or both, if both have not been delivered yet. If the buyer still does not deliver that due diligence fee within one banking day, so the next banking day. So if it's a Friday, then it's going to be a Monday. If Monday's a holiday, it'll be Tuesday. So the buyer has one banking day to deliver those funds, and they can't be like a personal check. It's got to be like certified funds. But if they don't do that, then the seller can terminate the contract. And in another video, we've talked about how to effectively terminate the contract. For the seller, you would use the notice form 352-T. Seller's notice to buyer that they're terminating the contract. You would check the box that says there's no timely delivery of the due diligence fee on that one, and you could check the box on the second page that the seller does not agree to release the earnest money to the buyer. So if the buyer doesn't deliver it, what does the seller get out of this? If you effectively terminate the contract using this provision, then the buyer is on the hook at that point, not only for that due diligence fee that they haven't delivered, but also any and all of the earnest money deposit. Buyer's agents out there, if you're working with a buyer and they're saying, I changed my mind, or they're saying, no, I'm not sending that until the seller takes it off the market or something like that, just know, and again, we talked about that, that's not a thing that you can do as a seller because we're under contract. But just know, as a buyer and as a buyer's agent informing your buyer client, that the seller could then go after the earnest money deposit as well, even if you guys are in that due diligence period. So the buyer's at risk for more than just the due diligence fee if they don't turn that over. I hope this answers your question. As always, life is short, so take action, but don't take it too seriously. My name is Russ Lockamy with the Ask the Big podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Ask the Bic podcast. To have your question answered on a future episode, email us at askthebic@gmail.com. That's askthebic@gmail.com.